We citizens of this once proud nation most certainly are at a critical crossroad in part of the overall greater human journey. Current realities forcing serious decision-making and action if we do in the least truly care to change the direction our nation is now heading. Even though many people the world over are still cheated their natural-born rights, with hatred ruling a number of nations' people, there's no room for pride when it comes to time for global apologies. And as citizens, we know this current need to be true without having to make a finely tuned, definitive case in point in a Supreme Court of law. We all know better, regardless how many flags you fly and regardless of how much money you give at church. It's there in everyone's conscience somewhere, even if you keep your opinions to yourself, as you stay committed to the ways of your daily life. The holier than thou charade will soon cease. It will soon cease. We loving citizens will unite and put an end to the rage and destruction of human life now and forevermore. It's time for all of us to lean together and navigate a big turn for the better. We cannot change history. We can only learn from it and act on creating a better future here and now, day by day, as we do what needs to be done, furthermore enabling us to freshly embrace our existence. We can realize better thinking. Grounds for forgiveness can be created, and we can eventually realize comfortable concepts for enabling fruitful global economic balance. In essence, ending world hunger once and for all, taking the upper hand on disease. If we put forth our best individually and play our cards right collectively, before our surroundings were to change more to our liking, it then becomes a lot easier to believe an entire world is capable of changing. And then it won't be long before we collectively take notice of a changing world around us. It's important to remember that terrorism itself is as old as sticks and stones. And powerful nations have been a bit too pushy since we began stacking one stone on top of another. There simply comes a time when situations demand change, and it's usually for the better. If it was now only as easy as who is without sin cast the first stone, since we've come to collectively realize that nobody is without sin, we've taken it upon ourselves to keep throwing stones anyhow, taking it upon ourselves to punish others with God's blessings nonetheless. Forget about being sorry. We need to wise up for our own good. You know, there once was a man who said, "Love one another as I have loved you." It's not F others over before they F you. Think about the history of land grabbing. Everybody fights for the same cause, whether you like it or not. Once this becomes seen for what it is, half the battle is over. And finding it in ourselves to forgive requires reason, and that alone can be more frustrating than what it's worth for some people. This is where the art of compassion comes in. True love. May love replace the anger in the hearts of men who know only pain. May love replace the anger in the hearts of men who know only pain. May love replace the anger in the hearts of men who know only pain. You can pull two brawlers apart in the street, but unless they both have real good reason to give up the fight entirely, it won't be long again before they're at each other's throats. And round we have gone, and round we go. So much war, so much death and destruction. It's time to let it go. To at least realize that a stepping out of line occurred when preemptively striking Iraq should indicate for the most part that our time has come to as well realize we will exhaust our loving capabilities and never stoop that low ever again. Nobody is going to successfully police an entire globe without countless citizens paying the ultimate price countless times, again and again, year after year, lifetime after lifetime. And according to what? Someone's idea of what it means to create progress in an effort to someday achieve lasting peace by way of the sword? no way in hell. That much we human beings have already demonstrated to one another during our time thus far spent on Earth. Soldiers follow orders, and their lives are gambled with and sacrificed for the patriotic endearment of others. Most citizens care rather deeply about the troops and have kept quiet about a lot of things, so not to interfere with your need to remain undistracted and alive. Many of the young people following orders were only hopeful of furthering their education and took a chance against their better judgment. Soon approaches the day when troops will no longer be instructed to carry out current assignments. If you're a student here in the States, don't forget about your assignment. The longer it takes to persuade the Senate and initiate an accountability process, the longer our men in uniform have to keep locking in on targets. Every soldier who signed on probably did so trusting that their commander-in-chief would make no false moves. We people will finally make perfectly clear the resolve of the general public. The troops will come home to a hero's welcome. Actually, after the peace treaty becomes finalized, everybody is going home to a hero's welcome. You feeling suicidal? Stick around. You're not going to want to miss this. That much having been conveyed, again, being the better person, taking responsibility for mistakes, and creating more fertile ground for peace is our first big step, a baby step that can lead to an entire global family collectively breaking the cycles of self-destruction once and for all. Each and every nation on this entire planet are entirely capable of changing for the better in all areas. I believe this with all my heart, and I know there's plenty of other people out there that believe just as sincerely. I say revenge is a dish best never served if we are to ever make meaningful progress anytime soon. The problem has been a lack of loving, proactive measures, leaving in its void failing, hateful, reactive maneuvers. Bottom line is, it's time for all local residents to realize that the welfare of distant opposing tribes is essential to our survival. The United States Constitution does provide a starter model for other nations of people who have become willing and eager to institute such, no doubt. We've come to tragically realize that it's all about how it's brought into practice elsewhere. And the presentation to others elsewhere recently merits no congrats whatsoever. Disheartening and making matters even worse for people even associated with democratic principles. It's important to recall that we United States citizens preceded our growth based on morally sound and agreeable ethics, and a nation emerged as a beacon of hope for other less fortunate people around the world to come exercise the right to be their own person, even if that means people being allowed to take a stand and speak out against the government, for God's sake. And look at how we still struggle to this very day with our civil rights issues. As citizens, we shall never look the other way again or remain idle and useless. As well, not looking the other way, as was the case until more recently, pertaining to the illegal flow of migrant workers being allowed to cross our borders. Due to gross lack of enforcement, the U.S. government gave these people rights by looking the other way to begin with. It is the government's duty to enable non-criminal illegals a clear, fair chance at citizenship. And what does one say to all the people now waiting patiently in line? Expediting the process requires tremendous amounts of money, staffing, and jobs. It will be brought up to speed. There is no excuse for us citizens to remain idle ever again. It's time for Congress to receive tens of millions of letters, and it's time to see this nation run the way it was meant to be run.